Okay. Let's begin with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everybody to the July 15th Marion County Commission meeting. We begin with public comments. So do we have anyone wishing to make public comments?
Yes, I do. King right here.
Tom always gets first.
See, I was trying to tell you, but hell, you wouldn't listen to me.
I figured I was in and out.
I know, well. Tom Britton, rural Florence. Good afternoon. I received the county's letter of excuses last week. It looked like it was written by the windmill company. First question, what does the decommissioning agreement look like with the new owners? And then the county put in parentheses. The response was Stone Peak is a financial backer and not an owner. I spoke with two businessmen, including my financial advisor in town. And the consensus is that Stone Peak has an 80% equity ownership stake. Bond or letter of credit. The letter of credit with Nordea Bank ABP. I filed documents Friday for the commissioners in your package. You guys get all that? Okay. Estimated cost of decommissioning is now north of $500,000. And the letter for decommission is $130,000 per windmill. Over. On July 5th, Nordea Bank ABP was indicted for money laundering for more than $3.8 billion with a B, the biggest money laundering case in the country here to date, in that country. This is who Marion County has its decommissioning security with. Money laundering is no stranger to Marion County. This filthy project was founded and funded with stolen Ponzi scheme money via Sunwind Energy Group and Windborne Energy. This commission has rewarded the criminals while creating severe hardship and potential loss of generational farms for Marion County citizens and landowners. Do you have any concerns for future consequences? How do you sleep at night? I can't. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Mr. King.
Soon to be Rep King.
Thank you. My name's Mike King. I'm from Heston. I'm a candidate for House District 74. My name from Heston, it's my grandfather started the bridge building company 100 years ago.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then went down to my dad and his two brothers. My dad Clifford was not an owner. Leroy and Raymond were the owners. And then a couple of head nods, you guys know my uncles. And then now it's to my cousin's generation. Too many kings, not enough corner offices, like I said before. And so I started my own construction company, basically in McPherson. And we did a lot for the refinery and chemical plants. And I didn't want to compete against my cousins. So the reason I'm running for the Kansas 74th is the timing is right. Current Representative Stephen Owens is running for the state senate, and that's basically Harvey and northern Sedgwick County, kind of northwest Sedgwick County. With redistricting, 74 lost Marion, but we gained Canton and lost Sedgwick, the city of Sedgwick, and gained all of North Newton now. So they squared it up a little bit better that way. So our time in Topeka, I've had time in Topeka, former KDOT secretary under Brownback, and served 4.5 years there. So I understand the process, and I think can instantly go and be a good representative for the western half, I'll call it, of Marion County, and a little bit of southern McPherson County, and then majority of Harvey County with the exception of the city of Newton itself. So I just wanted to come in and say hi, introduce myself, and then also just to thank you guys for what you do. I go to a lot of city and county commission meetings, and it's not always easy. But again, I'm just truly thankful, and the state is not gonna be easy. But I can be an immediate impact for you, so, thank you.
Do you happen to have cards or information you can maybe leave with our administrator?
Okay, I'll do that.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Wait a minute, sit down here.
It's public comment.
Public comment.
Randy, it's public comment. Take it easy. He got grilled last night, so now he's gotta have.
And I was there yesterday.
But, okay, you said your area was district.
Yeah.
When we did that for commissioners, we had to go by population.
Yes,
Still
by
yours?
population.
Okay.
So about 23,000.
About 23.
So take about 3 million-ish population of the state, divided by 125.
Okay.
There's 125 House members, which for a state our size population-wise, that's a lot of representation compared to some of our neighboring states.
And they run our area up around Newton, but didn't take the city of Newton.
Right. But again, trying to balance that population and rural and city, and so
And is this your first time?
this will be my first time running for the office, yes.
Thank you. You're done.
That would
We already had an office there, though.
Yeah, our office was, and it's interesting, most of the leadership was new when I was up there, so we know each other very well, and I helped train some of them. It's gonna be interesting, most of the time legislators go to agencies to run agencies. In this case, it'll be bringing agency experience to the legislators, which I think is incredibly important. So we had a $1.5 billion budget that hopefully was helpful to lots of people around the state. So I'll be here for most of the meeting. I do have to slip up to Salina, but again, thank you for all you guys do.
Thank you for running.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comments? None in the room, any online? If you would like to make public comments, unmute your microphone. Okay, not seeing any. We'll move on to agenda approval. Any additions to the agenda? If not, it'll stand approved, and we'll move into administrative. Ashley?
Okay, let me scroll down. We have the minutes of July 8th.
The commission has had a chance to review the minutes of July 8th. Is there any additions or corrections? Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Dalkey. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Gehring. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 4-0. I might mention Commissioner Crowfoot had a medical procedure this morning, so that's why he's not with us today. Next.
We have some early checks in the amount of $5,293.70.
Any questions? We discussed that one.
Okay. That's the reason why I missed it. That's
Oh, sorry.
$5,000 one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Discussed, thank you.
Not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Becker made motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Gehring. Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carried 4-0.
Next, I have some budgeted transfers. One is for road and bridge to special equipment. And the next one is road and bridge sales tax to capital improvement fund, and then road maintenance improvement to capital improvement fund.
Any questions on the transfer? questions? Now, is there a motion to start in on the first transfer?
I'd make that motion.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Dalkey, that would be the transfer from road and bridge to special equipment, amount of $116,666.67.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gehring. Questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried 4-0.
Second transfer.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gehring to transfer from road and bridge sales tax capital improvement fund $190,402.33. Road maintenance and improvement 7 mills to capital improvement fund $115,852. So second by Commissioner Becker. Discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 4-0. Transfers are done.
Okay, I have some supplements for review.
Just a reminder, supplements don't require a signature or approval, they're just for your information.
Oh, yeah, if you wanted direct deposit.
I don't hear it. Do you hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's really loud, actually.
really? Yeah. My selective hearing works really well.
It's on spike.
What?
My mom used to say that about me too. Sometimes selective hearing.
I didn't hear a word you said. You're in a tractor all day, you're blocking out.
Entire staff is able to.
Oh.
Boy, your bearings start to go. Happens about, I don't understand. It's like a conversation will take place right in front of somebody, and then you'll bring up, well, can you help them? What? What? And it's like, well, how was I supposed to know that? Conversation takes place.
Every day.
Right here.
We'll pump you on the back of the head. Pay attention.
Okay, been reviewed.
Okay, I have a question for you guys about the canvas, what day to have it. So the election is on a Tuesday, we usually have canvas the following Monday. The state would like us to take our time, and the last day we can actually canvas is the 19th, but I was thinking maybe the 15th or 16th. Is everybody available that day?
I'm gonna be touch and go for a while, so.
You
Monday.
can't appoint someone if you can't be here.
Well, don't you have to be here physically to appoint somebody so you can leave? Or can I do that online?
You could do it online.
Yeah.
Okay, alright, yeah,
So 15th or 16th.
whatever, make it work.
Go ahead and set it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll let you know the date.
Okay.
And then just FYI, we did get one reimbursement from the state for the presidential preference primary. We did get the full amount of $22,656, so.
Good.
And we're still waiting on the security grant one.
Very good.
That's all I have.
Okay, Tina.
My computer decided it wanted to go to sleep. Okay, in your packet, you had several informational items. You had my administrative report, an announcement that our emergency management director has graduated from the basic training at the national level, and then we had some month-end reports from the county treasurer and the county clerk's quarterly financial statement. Does anybody have questions about any of that information?
Is the treasurer's report a little different format than it's been in the past, or is my?
Well,
It seems like it was easier for me to go through this.
You like this format?
I mean, personally, Kent, what did
Yeah,
you?
I like the format.
Great. Yes, it is a little bit different than what you've seen in the past. This is what Tina has developed, and that's what format she plans to use moving forward, if everybody's good with it.
Especially on the investments, because that way we can keep track of the maturities and.
Right. And then on the, can you go to the next page, Ashley? On that, no, the other, that one. Yeah, that's okay.
The other next page.
The other next page. So on this section about pledging, just so it's clear, the municipal investment pool, which is the MIP, it's covered by state pledging. And so the next time, I think she's gonna put it down below, but just put a note that it's covered by state pledging, because it's not listed down there, so. But it is covered, so, okay.
I thought it was a nice format. Yep.
Interest is a big deal right now.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I'll let her know that you all
Good, thank you.
like that format. She's doing a really good job.
Mhm.
Okay, then the next thing for action would be approval of pay application number 2 for the health department project. And this is for that initial site prep, and the payment due is $40,958.31.
Motion to approve application number 2.
Section by Commissioner Garrett. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Dalkey. Questions?
Do they have, has he been, he's been ordering materials, but are we paying for them at delivery through him, or how is that working?
So there's usually there's a schedule that's included that where you pay for a certain percentage, and all of that is going through the architect also, and being approved and monitored by the architect.
Yeah, I noticed that he signed off.
Yeah.
Typically on ethics in construction, it's either on-site or it's stored and secured. So it can be either or. So it may not be on-site,
But it has
but
to
it is,
be.
it has to be
But
stored
it
and secured.
has been delivered,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah. And just an update, which I think I had in my report, but they should be starting excavation today for the footings, and the footings are expected to be poured by the end of the week. And the architect will be on site the day before. I think the pour is what he said, right, Randy?
Yeah.
So that he can verify that everything is placed the way he wants it, and all the rebar is correct before they pour, so.
Okay, then we know it's gonna rain. Anytime you start
As soon as
construction.
as soon as you open up that ditch.
It's gonna rain. Tell Ross at Channel 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need a motion did you already approve it?
No, we had a motion, we had a second, we haven't had the vote. We had questions. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carried 4-0.
Okay. Typically, I just have had the commission chairman sign the front page, even though there's not really a place for it.
It's validated if signed from all lines.
And then changed her mind, cross it out.
Do you want to hold on to this until you do your minutes and then just get
Okay, promptly at 12:30.
I'm so thrilled.
Still nicer here than.
We're trying to drag it out.
Okay, so Tom has brought in dump bed. Isn't it for dump truck? Yeah, for bids, for the bid. So He has two of them, and I assume that you are wanting me to open these since you
I
rejected
delegate the
them.
administrator to open and read the bids.
That's for the bed, right?
Yes.
And all the hydraulics.
I know.
It's always different on this side of the table. When you're on that side of the table, it is very suspenseful.
Yes.
Sorry, there's a lot of stuff on here.
Put all that information on your bid form in here.
I'm still not telling. This is kind of fun. Okay, so that we do have, the one bid is from Master Tech Truck and Equipment in Wichita. And it is for $93,662. And the other one is from Midwest Truck and Equipment, and this is also in Wichita. And their bid package is $81,845.
That's for
So-
the truck and bed both, right?
No, that's just for the.
Nice try.
350,000 if you want the other.
I know, I'm just,
Maybe there's a typo.
So I would
blows me away.
recommend that you would accept the low bid pending staff review that the specifications.
That's gonna be my motion.
Is that your
So
motion?
moved.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Gary, is there a second? Yeah. Okay, Commissioner Dalkey second. Questions?
Does that also include a snowplow, or is that just truck bed only?
That's the bet, we're gonna keep our plow, we have a plow.
Okay.
We'll have a plow on it, it'll be set up for a fence. Rows.
Thank you.
No, we're buying.
Okay. Other questions? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried 4-0.
If we were selling bread, it'd be the high one.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
So when I'll give these back to you, would you please stop in the clerk's office and have them make a copy of it all for me? And then you're gonna review, what's that?
You want me to go ahead and review them?
Yeah.
And then I'll let you know later.
Yeah, make sure they're apples for apples.
Should be pretty close, nobody had much questions on them.
Yeah, that'd be great. Definitely make sure that I get a copy, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
So the custodial contract starts today, which is great news. We also, because we're definitely ready to have somebody in here. Also, you may have noticed we have some landscaping going on, so that started today. The subject of being able to access the building after hours, has prompted, we do have physical keys that we can check out to the custodial service, but Kobe did mention that if we wanted to go ahead and add electronic door access here at the courthouse, we can do that relatively inexpensively because, as you know, we already put all of that
In the center.
infrastructure in. So it would be a matter, if we wanted to do the basement north and south doors, the cost would be, for just the parts, would be around $3,300, a little bit more. If we wanted to do only one door, it would be about $2,200. So I don't know if this is kind of a good time to maybe implement that. But that wouldn't be all the floors, it would just be the basement, so.
That would just be entries, right? Just the 2 entries.
North and south. Yeah, not any of the interior offices, but those keys are all gonna remain on site and then they'll just utilize them when they're in the building.
The keys will not leave the building.
Right.
Does it benefit any to bulk order for like this door and that door? All
We are,
Or is there any benefit to making a bigger purchase than Sometimes you want off.
Yes, I mean, basically the shipping,
Okay,
so,
okay.
other than the fact that we'd have one level completely ready to go and, it can be utilized for employees too at some point in the not so distant future.
So are those card activated thing?
They have a fob. Yeah, you can also do a code.
That way they can be deactivated. You have a record of who uses it.
Yeah, and we have a fob assigned to each individual person.
Okay.
And so then we can deactivate based on that individual, and we know who's coming in and out at what and when.
Makes it easy when you fire somebody. You just kill the guard.
Say
Anyway,
change in personnel.
It's not necessary that we do it right now, but
Well, it's,
if you want to, that's the cost, and it's probably an opportune time to do it if or at least to start.
So it makes sense to do the two entry doors.
That's the amount of risk management.
Well, it can, sure.
Well, I'm just,
I was probably just gonna take it out of the courthouse building improvement line, but we can do it out of either
well,
one.
I mean, if we have a set line that needs to come from, I'm just thinking risk management. Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of with the courthouse idea, knowing what the courthouse costs.
Either way,
Either one of those funds would be appropriate for that expense.
Would we have a motion to proceed with the electronic entry on the basement and south doors?
So motion.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Gehring, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Commissioner Becker. All those questions, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 4-0.
We'll get the parts ordered and get it going.
Nice to know all that pre-work
Paid off.
pays off.
And having somebody on staff so it doesn't cost $20,000 to do it.
The installation, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, then the next thing that I have is, I think that's, July 1st, or the July pay period, excuse me, is when budgeted step raises normally take effect. We do have step raises budgeted for this year for July pay period. I just wanted to make sure that the board is ready to move ahead with that before we just implement those, so.
It's all been accounted for in the budget.
Yes, it has.
Any,
But just because we budget it doesn't mean it's automatic and, I want to make sure the board is ready to move forward with that.
any opposition to moving forward?
Okay,
Move forward.
great, thank you. Then the last thing that I have on my list is the notice of revenue neutral rate intent. As you know, we prepared a budget that is revenue neutral. And so that's the way that, and this was in your packet, so I did prepare the notice as revenue neutral and potentially hold the budget hearing on August 12th during the regular session at right at the beginning of the session.
Still have to have a budget hearing, even.
Yes, yes, you still have to have a hearing and adopt your budget.
Just don't have to do the notice and hearing for.
And you still have to publish all that, but you don't have to send a notice to every taxpayer. And then also, you do have to vote to approve your budget and give the public an opportunity to comment on it, so.
No, I'm really appreciative you were able to hit that mark. Everybody says we're spending all this money and we're going revenue neutral.
Okay, so if the board is ready, it would be good to have a vote to approve this and then the
Do you have,
chairman or the clerk can sign
do
it.
you have one of the forms with the blanks filled in?
Yes.
Thank you.
I just hope you're able to
Oh, well,
smile and say that at December 31st.
right, I know.
For the rest of you that's sitting in the audience, when we was talking about this door stuff, the tech person that we hired, the second person, he can install that stuff himself and is doing that. So we're not sending it out to a contractor and having that done, just for your information.
That position has probably paid for itself 1.5 times already.
Yeah.
It definitely has.
Less than half a year.
So it's all filled out, all the,
Yeah,
yeah, you just have to sign the line there on the bottom.
Okay. Were there any questions about going revenue neutral? We've worked for months to get to this point. So are we, okay, then I would make a motion that the governing body of Marion County, Kansas notifies the county clerk of the intent that we do not plan to exceed the revenue neutral rate and will submit our budget to the county clerk on or before August 25th, 2024. Is there a second?
Second. You can have it.
3 seconds. Commissioner Becker gets the second. Questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried 4-0.
Yep, you can send it. All right, that was all I have.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Brad, the rest of the agenda is yours.
Was it planned? I might make one comment.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
So if everybody knows, we stayed revenue neutral to support the property owners in this county, especially fixed income people. They're having a hard time holding on to their houses and taking care of what they need to do in this inflationary period. We made a promise, and we've worked on this with all of our department heads. We're looking for every efficiency that we can come up with to stay at the revenue neutral rate. And it's gonna take all of us working on this to be able to handle that kind of budget.
But, tail in on that. When you get your tax form, you pay attention to the county line.
Right.
And whether or not it went up or down. We have no control over the school, the city,
State.
the state, they all move in their own way. So, look at the county line, your taxes didn't go up on the county.
Okay, any other comments? All right, Brad, you have the floor.
Okay, there are times when you regret making a certain commitment. I told you I would give you a resolution draft today. I regretted that all week long. But I did give you a resolution draft. I also added, as I had indicated I would, some of the executive orders, a number of the information about not being a conservation issue only, although it gets really muddy. I just finished this up last night, so I did not send it electronically, but I will. There's an additional 153 pages of documents that go with this, and I quit because I don't have the budget in my own setting for all the paper. And I didn't realize that was the only thing on your agenda. My whole week was spent on this, so everything else is generally going on task, and I will report on a number of other things again next week. But I had planned on at least getting this done, and it took me till last night to do so. This would make a decent packet as a starting point after you've inputted on different things on it for any kind of a town hall to go ahead and distribute to the public at that point. There may be additional pieces you want in it. When you look at it and go, there's some things here that I would like to see you add to it in terms of additional publication information that are both, quite frankly, primarily federal, but some state commentary as well in different areas that I found. The resolution that I started with is by no means one that I'm absolutely married to, that if you want additional changes or additional references to it, try to keep it somewhat standardized because they can get very long if you try to anticipate each and every element of it. But this looks very much like some of the general length of some of the others that I've seen. I looked at about 18 of those. I believe that was a total we finally were able to gather up and see what other counties are doing within this state. I picked up a number of them in other states as well, from other counties in different states as to what they're doing. And again, it's a little different in each state depending upon how it impacts them. If it's an ag-related state versus one that's more industrial in nature, significant differences in how they're responding and what they're saying. Some much more violent in their opposition, others very supportive. So it's across the board. But this will give you at least a starting point for purposes of educating yourselves some. on different things. The resolution itself, like I said, we were just attempting to put together a kind of a draft covering some of the things that have been discussed and the concerns. There are still a lot of other things I can add to this, and I probably will in the email to you, give you a hit list of additional items that I chose not to put in it thus far, because it will get really long. And I'm afraid that it's overkill, and it's gonna be like, I'll get the standard, oh, a lawyer wrote this, kind of a response, and I don't blame people if they did, because I even glazed over looking at some of what I had in it originally. So anyway, I realize that's short, but that's what I was anticipating, Dave, because I spent the whole week on this, to be candid with you, in terms of the hours that I can put into it. Because I wanted to get back to you with something to start with. And then I'd like for you to take a look at it, and if we can allot enough time next week to have some additional discussion about what you think. If you want to individually respond with thoughts or questions, feel free. I will probably send additional information to you along with this in an electronic form, so that you've got it both ways, since some I know prefer it that way. But it's a starting point, and then I think this should be something that we follow up on if the time permits the next couple of weeks and get that discussion done. And then if you want to begin to look at scheduling a kind of a town hall approach to it for public input in terms of the county residents, great. I'll plan to attend those as well if need be, and I suspect need be, to answer different kinds of questions and learn more about this than I wanted to.
Yeah, well, it's a good start, but you know, the public is just now kind of,
And that's what,
I finally heard about it, right?
Yeah, finally got the truth.
Yeah, well, you know, and some of this stuff has been so subtle, but this last issue with the transmission from Dodge City to Chicago with a 5-mile buffer, I mean, people woke up.
and as I said last time, even they pulled in, there's a lot of good programs, I will say that just as an editorial comment, that are, you'd be hard pressed not to support, that get mentioned in the executive orders, that get mentioned in some of the legislative hearing kinds of documentation. So it's hard to say this whole thing is bad, okay? I will say that just in my own reaction to it. But there, depending upon who you are, where you are geographically, there's a lot in here about what it will commit you to and the process for uncommitting. I started to treat elements of that, and I included some information for you in that as well, that just to educate you broadly on it so you can make an informed decision about what you individually as well as a body feel you want to do. This was about as short, I thought, as I could make it to start with some information that touches on the critical things that really impact us. And there's a lot more, and I'll give it to you and you can read it as you see fit. And then if there's still more you want, there's still more out there, because I've got a huge file on it at this point.
Well, you know, the two main things that we've heard from the public input so far has been the National Historic Trails and conservation easements.
Yep. And we touched on those in this, intentionally being a fairly major part of it, but it goes so much further and it's so much broader that I didn't feel like I was doing justice to it if you didn't have some of that additional information.
And some of the resolutions I've seen dealt a lot with those kind of areas, not including, you know, thinking about all this transmission lines and all this other stuff that's popping up.
Some of them that you read, and I'm not being critical of them, they get into the weeds a lot, and it's difficult then for you to go, why do I care about that? It's important nationally in terms of the ways that it would apply, but in terms of in this county in particular, narrowing it down to what we're most concerned with, a lot of that isn't as relevant because it just isn't something we'll confront. This basically kind of deals with where it comes home to roost, I guess, in terms of what this county would be interested in.
I'm also concerned about what some of these programs are actually gonna do to market value of land that may not even be included in a program, but they're somehow pretty close.
I just happened to go ahead and get, it was primarily K-State, where there were several studies that had already been prepared, both master students as well as professors from there, as well as some things that they pulled together in committee form on that issue, in terms of what it does in an agrarian setting in the United States as to what property values might be impacted. And then they got into the other topic we talked about a lot is how do you extract yourself from this if you're a subsequent buyer?
Yeah.
It's thus far, the way it's done, not that it hasn't been discussed, it is a challenge to get out of it. I did make some mention of that and threw some things
I
in.
mean, when a statement says perpetuity, that means forever.
Yeah. They allow, it's kind of like Medicare. They allow you special enrollment periods if you fit certain categories, but not everybody's gonna fit those. As a matter of fact, the majority won't. Subsequent buyer would not be in a position to say, well, now I own it, I don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
You buy it as is, where is. I'm surprised by the lack of flexibility in that, and then again, I'm not, because the intent is to take it out of production permanently.
Well, the thing that got me, my interest is when they started talking about these wildlife corridors.
Mhm.
Well,
Comes off.
they've already proven the fact out west on some of these CRP tracts where somebody's gonna come in and buy that CRP thinking, well, I may farm that thing again, or I may do this. Well, I can't even put a fence up if it's in a wildlife corridor. So you've pretty much killed the value of land, period.
I hadn't realized also that some of the wetlands designations that we've been using for years are included in this. They've been swept into it as well, and those convert to in perpetuity, where now they're not necessarily done that way. You sign up periodically for those, that will go away. And you'll have, I think, a single opportunity, at least one, to take it back out. But there's penalties involved in that even.
Well, it even concerns me of some of these land contracts, CRP, you know, the wetlands and all of, those are all 10-year contracts. Is there anything that would dictate down the road, okay, your 10 years is up, the next one you sign's in perpetuity?
Yeah.
We're gonna pay you more money.
Yeah.
But it's in perpetuity.
That's how most of it is written, and again, it hasn't been approved for that purpose. We're still in the fledgling element of that, but that's how it is done currently and how it's contemplated.
I mean, conceivably, the government could take over a big chunk of the country just on CRP program.
Yeah, and those who are, if they're not careful about what they read, thinking it's the same CRP I signed up before and I signed up for a decade, and then it may or may not be a program I qualify for or that I want to do again. That won't be the case, not unless they change it.
Well, I think it's a good start.
Need to start our public input.
Yeah, what I'd like for you to do, at least what I contemplate, and you can do it as you see fit, but is to take this, go through it to the extent time permits. Either give me in advance of the next meeting your thoughts, or at least be prepared so that if you want to discuss it at length as a topic for the next agenda, that we do that. And then I'll make any other additions to it or changes to it that you asked me about. I'm trying to form up something that can be distributed readily to the public and doesn't get so overly long that people just look at it and go, I'm not gonna read all that.
Three-page limit.
Oh.
It's what you got, 3
Yeah,
pages.
I know.
So I
I
guess you
kept it
shrink
under
the font.
35 intentionally, and so, but as I said, there's another, it goes in categories. There's another 153 pages that are directly related to what we are talking about, so that would stack this up.
We just gotta get to the meat of it.
Right. Yeah, I think that this winnows it down enough so people, in terms of reading the resolution, go, well, okay, what does that mean and where do I get that from? Leaf through, you'll find references to it and why I did it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you referenced, because that'd be very helpful.
Some of the other counties that you looked at, was they all 100 pages or more?
No.
No.
Butler was pretty extensive, but it was,
Yeah.
but it was only 7 pages.
Yeah. No, I probably overachieved on that part of it, but again, as you got into it, I was like, well, I can't really leave that out. If you're really gonna look at this seriously. Cause I mean, there are going to always be those on both sides of this. And so being able to look at it and say, well, that was equally treated here, the things that I find, good about this in terms of our state. So I tried to be middle of the road on my approach to it, let you guys take it from there.
Good, it's a starting point. That's all I was asking for.
Yeah.
So,
Because it's still gonna be a process to get to a draft
Yeah.
release.
This just gives you one that we can mark. I can give you others, I can change it, I can significantly change the emphasis. But as a starting point, this gets what I think you requested from me, which is, let's talk about how it impacts this county.
I know the drafts that I looked at were all different.
Yeah.
They had similarities, and I could see where they were trying to simplify it, I guess, as much as possible.
But every time you do that to a point, that's fine, but it comes back to haunt you.
Yeah.
And I also don't wanna
I know you
overcommit.
gotta have all the bases covered.
yeah, last thing we wanna do is put real restrictions on anybody.
Yeah,
Keeping them from doing what they want to with their ground either, so.
exactly, I mean, I own land in the county, so in terms of understanding the point from a landowner's perspective, you do wanna allow them to have the freedom to do what they wish. So that's how this is kind of drafted.
I do know, that federal land acquisitions have to go through the county commission boards in Nebraska. And is that statewide? And was that a legislative mandate?
The answer is yes and yes, as best you mentioned it last time, so, went to theirs. Colorado, has some restrictions on how it can, again, kind of in essence, looking at states' rights as to what we're gonna do with a lot of the federal mandates that are.
I guess I'd kinda like to get ahead of all of a sudden our legislature takes it up and mandates it and throws it in our lap.
That's probably the
Likely
other,
they'll take it away.
Yeah.
that's the other thing I would stress is we're
The state does.
small fish in a much larger pond here. So, I mean, you're doing this to go ahead and, in essence, take a county position on it. And if you get enough out of 105 that do that, then the state legislature has a reason to really spend some time on it. That really, thus far, it doesn't necessarily, it hasn't gotten onto the radar to some degree, at least as far as I can find, so.
So I guess I have I can ask outside the meeting, Brad, but number 7, in here you put that the board requires all proposed federal land acquisitions within Marion County receive the Board of Commissioners authorization. We have authority to do that? That's my question.
Sort of.
Okay.
We could be buying litigation by doing
Because-
it that way too, I'll be honest. I just did it because, I'll start from that position, because otherwise if you don't have the ability to control and you don't assert that right,
You're just making a statement.
then I'm just doing it, might as well do this as a policy and let it go.
So then how do we, should this be adopted, how do we actually go about that?
Well, we'll talk about that as part of it, because I'm not sure we would adopt it with that language in there unless I'd gone to our current legislators and those who will be coming into place saying, are you gonna sponsor something that gives that power from the state's perspective to each of the counties individually or not? Because if not,
Then we
there's no
can't really
reason.
have it
No,
in there.
no,
Okay,
then I'd take it back out.
thank you.
That's why it's such a, this is a work in progress to some extent, but.
It's gotten a lot more complicated
Oh, yeah.
when it first started.
Yeah. And I know it's supposed to be my function to make it more simplistic, but that's just not possible
Yeah.
with this.
Lawyers always have to make it more simple.
Actually, your job is to make sure we don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
We get as much of the correct information as possible to make the right decision.
That's the goal of this.
Yes.
And from there, Tina's question is well taken.
Point out.
I wanted to have it as a point of discussion, and that's one that people should catch, that, can you do that?
Right.
And my answer is going to be yes, no, and maybe. It depends upon how the legislature would react to this. But anyway, that was my extent for the day. I didn't realize I was gonna have the
Well,
captive audience for the.
That was,
I should have looked.
that was.
It'll be similar next week.
Will it? well, we probably will wanna, then take the opportunity for the time to do this while it's fresh in everybody's mind. Let's try to spend some time on this then, cause you can spend a lot of time on this if you want to.
You did the homework for this week, we need to do the homework for next week.
And I can provide you, again, feel free if you, hey, do you have anything that answers this or that treats this that you found? I got a lot of stuff there, so I'll be happy to share whatever I've got.
Tina's already hit it, 6 and 7 are gonna be the ones that.
Yeah, exactly. They're at the end for a reason.
How.
And there's gonna be two camps to this thing, just like there is
Absolutely.
anything.
Right.
It is.
But the main thing is come back what Commissioner Gary said, and that's not infringe any rights. Protect, but not.
Right.
I don't want any government overreach.
This has to be pro-private landowner language.
Federal, county, or state.
Also, as a disclaimer, this has not yet been reviewed by the county's revisers. Normally find my errors in it, so there may be changes made in that regard as well.
We're not to that. You gotta get the content.
It's like a blueprint, have the concept.
That's the thought.
We're on the napkin.
So I can mark it all up and say this won't work and then this will work.
I had to stare off into space for a while to figure out exactly what do I give you, so this was the best shot I could come up with.
That's perfect.
Do you know, like on this transmission line, that they're proposing a 5-mile buffer? What happens to the taxation on that?
Still an open question, however, thus far it seems like the general approach to that is some type of an exception, so that is not, if it's taxed at all, it's taxed at a different rate under a different circumstance. And I don't even know how that necessarily is going to be legislated.
I'm just thinking, something like that going through Marion County would be so destructive to our tax base.
Well, I guess I come back to what's their definition of buffer? What restrictions are buffer?
I don't know.
Buffer just that, he can't do anything that would interfere with the transmission line, but what's that definition?
I think it just gives the government the right to
Control it. And
control that for whatever purpose, or come in and say, go ahead and farm it, or tell you next year don't put any weed out, or whatever.
It's like transmission lines now, the farming and the spraying is right up.
Yeah.
There's not even an inch, it's right
I
up.
did a little study on that, and most of them are 500 feet, maximum to 1,000 feet, as far as a buffer.
And
When I saw this 5 mile, I'm going, my gosh.
and based on the what was it? Executive Order 14008, it's gonna be grass. It's not gonna be, there ain't gonna be no farming. They're gonna make it because they want it green.
some of it is on our part, in terms of those questions, is also conjecture, but it's valid conjecture. If you look at what they've done in the past with programs involving CRP and other things, there are certain instances in which you can hay it or harvest certain things, graze, as long as you don't impact adversely the general overall purpose. How do I know what that is? I don't. Because it's still at that phase where that language has been put in, but it's still being developed. So your question's well taken. I don't have a good answer for what that will include or how that will work. You hope that the logic is, as long as it doesn't, like with a transmission line or a water system or a pipeline of some kind, if it's already existing. Because they took those and said, we said a certain number of feet when we did it, we didn't mean it. Now we want to go ahead and widen those out as part of this process.
And at what point in time could a wildlife corridor become a wildlife refuge?
If you read again, let's see, who was that? Arizona, California for sure. Even the state legislatures have weighed in to some extent, and they're much more liberal about it than the flyover part of the United States is going to be. They are kind of, for all intents and purposes, a refuge, the way it's worded.
Well, I was curious, because back in my banking days, I had a customer in Barber County. Barber County became a very large ranch for a very prominent person in this country.
it never got very far, but he did approach the county commission at one time about putting that whole acreage, he wanted to put it into a wildlife refuge. Upon study of what that would have done to the county, it would have bankrupted Barber County.
Yeah, there's a lot of impacts, and maybe some of them will become unintended consequences, still hard to tell.
You know, things you don't think about, like you said.
There's a lot of editorials, more so than I thought, already on this, generated from every group known to man. Sierra Club and on and on and on.
I don't know why they make their agenda go out in Nevada or someplace where it's desert and
It's not being used anyway.
make it become something good.
I'm curious also about, I've got more research to do on that, the grandfathering element of certain uses, if it happens to cross an area that has been industrialized a bit, or you're using it for asphalt plant. And now with these, like in Halstead, the proposed storage facilities for electrical storage, or the ones that are the cyber types of farms. None of that has been adequately looked at yet. That's still down the road a ways. Just a lot of questions, more than answers on that.
Just like Scott was telling us last week about the gas storage out of Pratt.
$14 million.
I mean, you don't think about those kind of things.
There's also, go on with this all day, the Yagi field is a classic example, and actually mentioned in several instances. I was part of that litigation a few years ago when Hutch blew up. The ability to continue to do that has become a fairly major source of storage over the years for companies, that it directly impacts the cost of certain commodities to end users. A lot of this there's a frequent mention of taking those kinds of things out of production. Really. So it's not above ground, you're talking about below ground as well.
And I'm guessing some of that probably might be even considered National Reserve, or they designate it National Reserve.
And you've got the above ground tank storage. And then you also have like the Hugoton field. And so in Kansas, it does impact us. Other states, clearly Texas, for example, a lot more, but it doesn't mean that it wouldn't still have a fairly significant effect on those counties and then the state as a whole. It's a big project.
All right, anything else? Oh, okay, right.
See in there's 12 different agencies that they listed to start with, secretary of this, secretary of that. Where's it gonna affect the farmers the most in Kansas? I mean, where's this gonna jump on the farmers at that's want to protect themselves?
When you read through this, you're gonna find that there's a significant tie in almost every instance. It always flows back in terms of that set of tentacles to the Department of Agriculture. And that has a direct impact on us, and then also with certain agencies that they assign, like KDHE at the state level, and what they will be able to do and how they'll be able to do it. It will impact them. Good lecture on this.
We got a new career.
Self-educated.
I'm sure they'd want to hear from me.
Then you can license other people to.
Yeah, to take through stuff I've done.
No joke. Okay. Other questions at this point? Well, it looks like we got our homework to review and discuss, and come back next week and see if we can get a little more on detail.
For those that haven't gone to one of those meetings, that will enlighten you a lot. You may have to go to a meeting. Most of the meetings have been, against the 30 by 30. Man, maybe there's some meetings out there that discuss the other way. A lot of good people out there would rather see this litigated in court. But the way our country is right now, anything being this big being litigated in court, you're talking about decades, I'm guessing, to litigate it.
Yeah, and there may be that anyway by the time the legislation is put in place. You know, your alternative, obviously, in terms of 3 branches, is to go to the court system if you aren't happy with how it turned out.
Any other questions for Brad at this time? If not, you can rest up and we'll be ready for you.
No, I've got a bunch more to do.
All right.
Well, thank you for doing all that research.
Yes.
That's a lot of research.
We do appreciate that.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. That concludes our agenda for the day. Were there any commission comments you'd like to make?
You know, we've all sat here and listened to all the vitriol for the last 9 years coming out of both political parties. Both are at fault. You know, and it's always been my fear that all of this was gonna end up in violence, and it did. And, you know, our founding fathers set this country up to where we as the people can make the changes we want. And it always kind of bothers me, you know, my parents, if I would have not voted, I'd have been in trouble by the age I could vote. And it just really bothers me that we have such low voter turnouts. Now, in the general, it probably will be quite a bit higher. But, you know, founding fathers set this up. If people want to make changes one way or another, you've got the ability to do it, and it's to vote. And you know, tomorrow's the deadline to register people. And I just really encourage people to register and vote. Nobody's got an excuse if you don't vote. You don't have one excuse about how this country's running if you don't vote. And you know, the forum like we had yesterday, I would deem that a very successful. A lot of information, you know, and I commend the people that are running, and I commend the people that took the time to be out there and listen. We all learned a lot. Got to know some people we didn't know. So I would ask that we take a moment of silence for Mr. Corey Comprator. Lost his life at Butler, Pennsylvania the other night, protecting his daughters. He took a bullet for his daughters that was intended for Donald Trump. 2 others are still in serious condition. And I'd ask at this time we just take a moment of silence to remember those that gave of their life just to be part of the political scene of this country. So if we can take a moment of silence, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Happened to see the agenda for Hillsborough. Looks like city council. Looks like they might be trying to achieve the revenue neutral also. So don't want to take any credit that we started any trends, but I think in there everybody's seeing the same thing, and they need to make sure that people are having a hard enough time. Let's try to make sure we help them.
Okay, very good. Brandy? All right, if there's no other commission comments, the next meeting is Monday, the 22nd, 12:30. Again, we hope things went well with Commissioner Crowfoot today. And with that, I move to adjourn. Second by Commissioner Gehring. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried 4-0. We are adjourned. And we only went through one.